welcome back. We're going to continue our study of props and state in React and continue with our project. In the previous video, we set up our counter list so that we can have counters that count. And my challenge to you in the end of the previous video was to get the decrement button working. So let's review that. So how did you do on that one? Here's the solution that I would do. I'm going to go to app.js and then I'm going to add a new prop, okay? So I'll call it decrement, and we'll add a function here, and I'll say const new count equals, and I'm going to copy the count. So I'm going to create a copy of count, and then I'll say new count, and then go to the index or go to the value at index I, and say you're going to be your new value, because I need the equal sign, your new value is value -1, okay? And then as a last step, I'm going to call set count and pass in the new count, okay? So we copied our array and modified the new copy of the array, and then we called set count to update our state, and that causes the component to re-render. Okay, so the second step here, so that's our first step, and the second step here is going to be to actually use the decrement function that we just created, right? So we're passing that in as a prop here, so I'll deconstruct it at the top, and then I'll call decrement here in my button on click. So I'm going to deconstruct it here, and then I can call it right here. So let's save that and see how it's working. Oh, it looks like it's working pretty good, right? So every counter can have its own value, right? And we can increment and decrement each value separately, and the parent component has access to these values that are passed down to the children. Okay, so let's try one more thing here. So this looks pretty good, but what if we wanted to add a new counter, right? So actually we could just add a new counter by updating the array. So if this array determines how many counters we see, so if I want to add another counter with 0, I can just put a 0 in here, and then that counter displays. And this counter can have its own value separate from the other two. Okay? What if we want to display the total of all the counts? Okay? So let's give that a try, right? So I'm in app.js right now. Let me move these around a little bit. There we go. So I'm in app.js, and what I want to do is display the count. Now remember, all of my counters are in this block right here. So they start here and it ends at that curly brace right there. And then here's the opening div and the closing div here. So maybe I want to show the total at the bottom of the page. So I'll put in an H2 down here. And maybe right here I want to use reduce to reduce this array of numbers to a single value, okay? So I'll do that at the bottom here. I'm going to say count dot reduce, and what I'm going to get is I'm going to get the accumulator and a value, and let me point out, right, so this is the function right here, and I'm going to put a comma in there and a 0. So my starting value is going to be 0. And then right here, I have to have the return value. So my return value is going to be accumulator plus value, right? So you can see here I've got 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 7 is 16. And then the value down here shows 16. Let's put total colon in front of that, right? Yeah, total is 16. 23, right? 21, right? 22. So that seems to be working pretty good. So now that we've got the value there, let's try a couple other things, right? So here's a couple more challenges for you, right? What if we wanted to add a button that created a new counter? What would you do, or how would you go about doing that? So imagine like down here you had a button that was, add counter, right? And clicking on this button creates a new counter up above here, okay? How would you do that? Give that a try, and then we'll cover it maybe in the next video, okay? So, and again, thanks for watching.